This tutorial will show you how to do the mosaic knitting technique for the cross sample in Lissa Conley's Native American Cal Facebook group. This is what the front of the work looks like. It is done in garter stitch, meaning you knit one row, turn your work, and knit the reverse or the return row. And this is what the back of the work looks like. It is not a mirror image of the design, but rather it's rows of color. With your main color, you will cast on 23 stitches. Start by making a slip knot. This counts as your first stitch. I used the long tail cast on method to cast on the remaining 22 stitches for a total of 23 stitches on your needle. For row 1, you will use your main color and knit across the entire row. For row 2, you will turn your work and repeat the same thing you did for row 1, knitting all the stitches you knit in the previous row. For row 3, you will join the alternating color and knit across the entire row. For row 4, you will turn your work and repeat the same thing you did for the previous row, using the same color, and you knit the same stitches. So in row 4, you will knit all the way across. Just completed row 4. You're going to turn your work and prepare to do row 5, but before we do that, let's see how it looks compared to the finished sample. And that's the row we just completed. We'll now begin row 5. With the main color, we will knit across the entire row. For row 6, you will turn your work and you will repeat what you did in the previous row. So with the main color, you will knit across in all the same stitches that you knit in the previous row. We just completed rows 5 and 6. Now let's see how that looks when we compare it to the finished sample. Now we're going to begin row 7. This is an alternating color row. In this row, you will knit all the boxes that are in white, and you will slip purlwise with yarn and back all the boxes that are in blue. We just completed row 7. Now turn your work to do the return row, or row number 8. And in this row you can see that the alternating color stitches we knit, and the blue boxes, which indicated the main color, we slipped purlwise, since this was an alternating color row. And for row 8, you will just do the same thing that you did in the previous row, which is knit the alternating color. And for the main color that we slipped in the previous row, you will still slip purlwise, but you will bring the yarn in front when you do that. And we'll see that again as we slip the next main color row. And the reason we bring the yarn to the front when we do that on the return row is that you don't want to see that stitch on the front side of your work. And we're coming up to where we're going to slip that stitch again, and you bring the yarn to the front, slip that stitch purlwise, move the yarn back to the back, and continue knitting the same stitches that you knit in the previous row. We're now going to begin row 9, and this is an easy row. It's a main color row, and as you can see by the chart, you knit all the stitches across. We're now going to begin row 11. With the alternating color, you will knit all the blocks that are in white and slip purlwise the blocks that are in blue, and you will slip that with yarn in back. For row 12, you will turn your work, and using the same color that we did in the previous row, so we're using the alternating color, you will knit the same stitches that you knit in the previous row, slip the same stitches that you slipped in the previous row, and then knit again and slip, knit. And when you slip on the return row, you will slip those stitches again purlwise, but this time with yarn in front, like so. Yarn in front, slip purlwise, yarn in back, continue knitting. We will continue following this pattern by reading the graph as depicted above. For the rows that begin with a dark blue color or a blue square, those indicate your main color rows. For the rows that begin with the white square, those are your alternating colored rows. For the main colored rows, you will knit the blue boxes and slip the white boxes. For the forward row, or as you complete that odd numbered row, you will slip with yarn and back, and you will always slip purlwise. And when you do the even numbered row, which is the return row, you will use that same color, and you will knit those same stitches that you did in the previous row. And this time when you slip the stitches that you slipped in the previous row, you will slip with the yarn in front, and once again you will slip purlwise. When you work the alternating colored rows, once again, those are the rows that begin with a white box. You will knit those stitches in the white boxes, and you will slip the blue boxes. For the forward row, which is the odd numbered row, you will slip purlwise with yarn and back, and when you complete the even numbered row or the return row for that previous one, you will knit those same stitches that you knit previously, and this time when you slip the stitches that you slipped before, you will bring the yarn in front, slip the stitch purlwise, then move the yarn in back to continue knitting and working to the end of the row as indicated by the chart. Continue this way following the chart until you get to the very last row. Once you complete row 49, I will see you back here where we will cast off. So I actually did not show how to do your bind off or your cast off row. There are many different ways that you could bind off, and you can just do a YouTube search on how to do that. But you follow the graph as shown until you finish rows 49 and 50. And then after you finish row 50, you just bind off going across the top in any way that you choose. And you can see how that bind off on the top, it just looks nice and neat. I just did a traditional bind off, and the graph looks just as it did in the picture. And again, this was mosaic knitting in garter stitch.